Now that we are getting more into the pipeline side of Maya, the first feature we have to talk about is the project. In other software, you might refer to a project more as in a colloquial sense that I'm working on a project, it's about these two mice doing a thing with this environment. But in Maya, a project is very much a technical term, and it refers to where files are stored. Now, this sounds like a really boring topic, but it's actually a really essential part of your Maya experience. So really, really pay attention to this one. If you skip this one, everything will be completely screwed up in all the actual projects you're doing, such as XGen, or when we are doing the Spartan Helmet project later on. So we find the project settings under File, and we have two settings down here under Project, and we have Project Window, and we have Set Project. By default, the project will live under My Documents, Maya, Projects, and Default. So here there is already a default project, and everything you saved by default is going to live under here. Now, we haven't really saved anything here, but you might have a lot of files here. This is the directory you're going to be seeing whenever you were to auto-save something, or if you hit Control S, then it's going to go directly into Scenes, for instance, and then you have it right here. So the advantage of this is that everything has a default directory to save into. It doesn't just save stuff into temporary folders, which are now deleted later on. For instance, if you were to do some simulation or something like that, it has a default directory to save the caches into, where source images will go, where render data will go, and all this kind of data, which you don't really see directly, but is incredibly important for Maya to actually store. So we can set a project if we go to File and Set Project. I have a directory on my desktop, which I use just as a general directory. This is where I just store all my crap, and I just delete this entire folder afterwards, which is really useful. So here I just have a new folder called Maya Project, and this is where all my folders for this is going to be. You don't have to follow along. You can follow along if you want to, but we're going to be deleting this afterwards anyway. Then we hit Set Project, and now it's going to ask you, do we want to create a default workspace, or do you want to set another location? Basically, what it's saying now is that in this folder, there isn't a project file. There is a project file is named workspace.mel, and this just tells Maya that, hey, in this location, there is actually a project. So we're just going to hit create default workspace, and that's going to create that. And now if we go to the project window, you can see that nothing has really been created yet. We can go into the actual folder as well. And this is what's happened now. Now you can see we have a workspace.mel and nothing else. So then we go into the project window, and here we have all the different folders. And now you can see this here has been set. This has been set to the desktop, delete me, and Maya project. So now if we want to create these folders, we can now just hit accept, and there we go. Now if we go back into our folder, you can see that everything is here. So let's just create a cube now, and then we can hit Control S, and now you can see that this here directly goes to projects, default, and scenes. So if you're just doing some super quick modeling and you're doing 10 different props every single day, whatever it might be, you don't have to create a new project for every single prop. But you might have a project called personal work or props, and then you have that all under one, and every single prop will just be a scene file under the project. But I tend to make a new project whenever I start, a new project. If I start a whole new character, a whole new environment, if it's a job for whatever thing it might be, then I'll start a whole new project. When I was in VFX, I would start a whole new project whenever I was making a new asset, because I might spend a few weeks on an asset, and it was just a lot cleaner to keep it that way. This becomes incredibly important when we're dealing particularly with XGen. We'll talk a bit more about it then, but there are some areas of Maya which literally don't work without a project. So just to sum it up, before you do any kind of work ever, make sure to go to project, set a directory, then project window, and then here we hit accept, and we now have our project saved.